So now when you come now to inclusion, this is where diversity is accepted. We accept that all children are different. All children can learn. There is no child in this world who cannot learn. Nobody. If you know the differences, there are differences, all what you need is to plan accordingly so that all these children are going to get their support, individual support. So inclusion now where we are, you can say it's a system that mainly focuses on the systems, on the change of the policies, on the change of attitudes. While you go to the other ones, we are focusing more on the child. The child has to change so that he or she can fit in the system. But in inclusive education, you are born the way you are, you are created by the same way like anybody else. And therefore, the difference that we see in children must be respected. A teacher must be able to support, must be able to plan for the diversity we have in the classroom. That's now where we are in inclusive education. But you can see it's a long way. 126 years here in Sweden. How many years in Africa? Quite a good number. Yeah. And in Africa, in most cases, although African governments, 99% have endorsed international conventions, they are still here. A few are here. Yeah. And even some communities are here that the child cannot learn. He's talked about it. Yeah. Because we take education like an investment. And if the child has a disability, what will she or her give me in return? So stay at home. That's the mindset. Somebody talked about mindset. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we heard a lot about the concepts, and there's no universal definition for inclusive education, but maybe Stephen, you can share what inclusive education means for IIS in particular.
Thank you very much. When our founder was introducing what IIS is, he said we have three thematic areas. IWN about water and wash and other things. We have civil society development and inclusive education. And now, before we go on, it's good for us to understand how do we ourselves define it, inclusive education. One, she has just said it. Currently, we don't have a universally agreed definition, but we have understanding. She asked you, what is your understanding about inclusive education? Maybe if it was an examination, you could have written something on a piece of paper, isn't it? You have an understanding. And there's no right or wrong answer. It depends on your own understanding. However, there's one thing in common. Different countries, they have signed this one. They have their own meaning. In Sweden, I'm sure they have their own. The country Sweden has its own definition of inclusive education. If you go to UNESCO, they have their own. UNICEF, they have. Kenya, where I come from, we have our own definition. Although we have these different definitions, representing different movements and shapes, there is one commonality, something in common for all this one. Unlike this other system, which now say the child is a problem, inclusive education can be is a system of education which is concerned with identifying and removing barriers or factors that can stop, that can hinder a child from learning effectively. All of us, if you reflect when you were in primary school, those many years ago, maybe you can see that child who was sitting at that corner, who was a slow learner. Was the teacher taking care of that particular child? Maybe no, maybe yes, because of the mindset. So, although we don't have a universally agreed definition, there's one thing in common I have just said. It is a system whereby it mainly focuses on identifying the challenges. Challenges are very many, barriers are many, factors are many. And I think when you know, and when I see my friend here, and I identify the problem he has, just like when you go to the hospital. Back in Africa, my old grandmother could go to the hospital and the doctor asked her, what can I do for you? He said, you are the doctor. Yeah? You know me. Just look at me and know where my problem is. The doctor said, no. Can you tell me so that I can be able to diagnose you? So similarly, when we identify the challenges, the child with hearing impairment require 1, 2, 3. The child with the vesicle require 1, 2, 3. Then you plan accordingly. You may not have the resources, but when you identify, you'll be able to minimize, if not reduce them. So how does IAS define that one? It's our own definition. And this is mainly based on our work, what we are doing, what we have found through lessons learned, and of course, looking at other international documents like UNESCO document, UN and others. So we define it as a wide range of strategies, principles, activities, and process to seek to make a reality of the universal right to quality, relevant, and appropriate education. Inclusive education is a human rights issue. Back in 1948, every child, every person has the right to be educated. It's there in black and white, but do the governments implement that one? It's anything altogether. We go further and say, according to IAS, inclusive education is based on a system of values and beliefs centered on the best interest of the child. The best interest of the child. We are not talking on the child with a disability. Inclusive education is for all, and she talked about it. She said about it. All children. Does all mean all or a few? That's something we have to think about. Yeah. What does all mean to you? Like now we are in this particular room, seminar room. We are all included. But we cannot say all when a few of the people within this room are not getting what we are talking about. We are supposed to be moving at the same pace. We also talk about inclusive education acknowledges that learning continues throughout life. The other system, we are talking about the school. And normally, there is no continuity between the home and the school. But when you look at inclusive education, learning starts from home. I normally talk to the teachers and they say, do you know that the mother is the first child of the child? One teacher asked me, where did she go for training to be called a teacher? That's again my attitude. So we acknowledge that inclusive learning starts from home, and not only in formal schools, even in informal schools, non-formal schools, home, the community, and all that. Remember what the girl said, don't limit me. Yeah? Don't only teach me mathematics and I don't know something else. Yeah? Give me holistic education. That's about inclusive education. It seeks to enable communities, systems and structures in all cultures to combat discrimination. We have very many people who have been discriminated. Not all those with disability. Minority in language, ethnicity, even in religion. Yeah? If I came now here with my child, maybe my child will take about 3 or 4 months before he or she can be able to start learning because of the language barrier. That means that child will be excluded from learning. But when you talk about inclusive education, all these children's needs are taken care of. That's about inclusive education according to IS. And we say it is a part of wider strategy that promotes inclusive development, like the way the girl said, in inclusive society. When you take your child to another town, a special school, very far away, do you think the child will fit into the system, in the family, when she comes back? He will be a stranger. Yeah? One day somebody gave us a story, we had a few of us. An Indian farmer, one day he became, I don't know whether mad or what, he took his goat and skinned it, removed the skin, and walked in the market, like now this market here. What do you think happened to the people? They wanted to see this mad person who is making the goat suffer. The goat has no skin. Can you imagine the goat having no skin? He's all saying meh, meh, meh. The whole population in the small town went to watch this particular person. The second day, good luck, the goat didn't die. He went back there. Do you think everybody went to see him? No, they saw him. The same man yesterday. The third day he was alone before the goat died the following day. It's the same thing with all disability. When you see this child like this for the first time, you see and you say, oh God. Yeah? But suppose that person is within the same family. It's treated like anybody else, isn't it? That's not what you inquire. So when you take your child to a special school far away, what does it mean? The school has a lifetime. When they come back to their family, they won't fit. That's not what you should think about. But inclusive education takes care of this. The child should be taken to the regular school, which he or she could have gone if he or she did not have an impairment. And our definition of inclusive education is in line with the 4 key elements that's supposed inclusive practice from the UN. Inclusion is a process. It's not something we can say we are going to do it today and finish it. Like I said, it's a process. You can see here, defining rules here. It took 126 years. So how many more years are we going to take? It's a process. It's very dynamic. Things are changing every day. We used to call children who are handicapped. That term is no longer being used. We came to special need. Who doesn't have a special need among the people here? Then they came to special educational needs. I think that one was a bit better. But even these terminologies, because they are changing every day, because there are new things coming, now they are using the terms children or learners facing barriers. They have no problem. If you are born blind, do you have a problem? The problem with the way you say it, society and the environment. Yeah? You may be having a barrier to learn because you have no braille machine, you don't have large prints. Those are the challenges we are going to have. So it's a process. Again, inclusion is concerned with identification and removal of barriers. The barriers are those factors that hinder a child from learning effectively in a class. And remember, we are going beyond the school. We are going to the community. We are going to the families. Again, inclusion is about the presence. What does it mean? You can see this term here: presence, participation, and achievement. Maybe I put something here. We are talking about presence. We are both talking about participation. Then here you have learning. When all these are combined, we have achievement. So what is happening in most governments, by most governments, they say, okay, our schools are inclusive, but they are only here. Children go to school, and then you see a class like this one, you have very many people from different cultures. But are they actively participating in the learning process? Do the teachers know what to do with them? You just go there, you become a passive somebody there. And the parents, then they say, no, why did you tell us to take our children to school? They have learned nothing for 5 years. So they take us to school. When there is no participation, there will be no learning at all. And when there is no learning, do you think there will be any achievement? No achievement. But what happened in most governments, the curriculum that we are using is examination-oriented, test-oriented. So what happens? We measure achievement by how many marks the child got out of 100, 20 out of 100. In Kenya, we have something called MSS, mean score syndrome. If the child does not get half of the marks out of 500, you remain in the same class. You have not learned anything. But in inclusive education, we are saying it's about the presence, participation, learning, where achievement is measured not only on academic matters. The girl said, teach me about good manners. Teach me about whatever you saw in the video. That's what we want in inclusive education. Don't only measure achievement by passing the examination. She told us, teacher, teach me other things other than what? English and mathematics. That's what we are talking about presence. And lastly, inclusion involves a particular emphasis. Remember, we are talking about all children, but we have to emphasize who are these children who have been excluded. He talks about the children he found in Somaliland who are being locked there. Those are children who are vulnerable to exclusion. Stigmatization is there. They could be in school, but they are underachieving because teachers are not giving them the support that is necessary. All this, when we wide it up, it is what we want in inclusive education. Difference is acknowledged. Every child can learn if only the child can be given the support.